He skittered past the other officers in the mess without a glance at them. Well, not directly at least. His compound eyes gave him almost 270 degrees of vision without moving his head. His pseudo-pupils were off-putting to those that were unfamiliar with his people, as they made it appear as though he was always looking directly at said observers. He wasn't, not really. He left the building and stepped out onto the paved walkway that sat near the edge of one of the main routes through the camp. The roads were made of quick-bond asphalt and fast-setting duracrete for the most part. They served to make it so that the many vehicles that constantly traversed the camp could move without issue. While they were not in one of Draventus wet zones, the constant heavy traffic would still degrade dirt or gravel roadways to uselessness in weeks if not days. So, the pavement. These thoughts passed through his mind as he made his way along the paved blacktop towards the 3rd Armored Motor Pool, the artillery park as it was called among the ranks. He checked his surroundings before he crossed and stopped as he saw the huge armored bulk of an M8A2E1 Quinton main battle tank rolling his way. The 81-ton behemoth was more than 2.5 meters in height, and its 140mm main gun was raised tall and proud in combat-ready position. He felt the rumble of its tracks through the pavement below him as it ground its way past. His antennae perked up a bit, and he waved to the commander who was positioned out on one of the heavy tank's many machine guns. The human nodded and raised a hand in greeting before they were carried away by the mammoth vehicle. A slight feeling of awe passed through him, as it always did when confronted with the super-heavy armored main battle line of the Union. The thick armored plates of the departing tank seemed to give it an air of extreme power that almost made him wish he was assigned to one of the metal beasts. Almost, but not quite. Caviel crossed the road quickly as it was clear and walked to the guard post that allowed access to the artillery park. The Nerevith guard inside seemed a bit bored but took his ID and checked it against the computer before handing it back. "Go give him hell for me, will ya?" the guard said as he took the proffered ID chip back. He looked at her, her indigo eyes and raven hair mixing with the deep rose of her skin to give her an intriguing appearance. His antennae rose in a friendly manner as he replied, "Of course. They won't even see it coming. Swift retribution will be dealt upon them." She nodded, a bit less put upon looking, as if his comment had given her the will to keep up her boring post. The interesting encounter wasn't all that unfamiliar to him, the Nerevith being a very actionable people after all. They hated sitting still and maintaining positions. They loved to attack the offensive. The rush of wind as one charged a fortified position with nothing but courage and a rifle. It's what they had been bred for after all. Their culture and thousands of years of history almost entirely composed of brutal planetary wars on a scale that would make even a human green with horror. The effects of stress and trauma were almost entirely absent from them, and they would follow orders to the letter if directed by an officer of higher rank. Though that didn't always mean they had to like it. They could break, but it took a hell of a lot of firepower to get them to run. Caviel put thoughts of the grim succubine aliens aside as he focused once more on the task ahead. He was wending his way in between the various hulks of artillery vehicles. Here the wide bulk of a M699 SPG blocked his path, the long barrel of the human-designed artillery piece reaching towards the sky. There next to it the much squatter form of a Nerevith-designed Bombard-class gun carrier sat, the idle vehicle armed with a truly menacing wide-barreled ordnance launcher. He made his way around the lightly armored mobile gun battery and perked up instantly as he saw his pride and joy. Sitting ahead of him, the hull heavy with armor and the main gun looking like the cavernous maw of some ravenous beast, sat his charge, a Thunderscream assault gun or tag as some called it more simply. Emblazoned across the side facing him in stylized lettering were the words Oledsi Quas Vaspnik, meaning Old Man Death, in Old Vinarphelian, an apt name for such a powerful instrument of the Union's wrath. As he approached, he heard the sound of clanking metal and a hissing curse. A head poked out from the rear external engine compartment hatch and turned his way. The slightly grime-streaked Winterfell called out to him. "Hello, Sergeant. I got here a bit early to make sure he was running in tip-top shape. Good thing I did too, as he was a bit rattly. A loose bolt on the manifold. Nothing threatening, but I had to go over them all to make sure it was an isolated case," they said, their antennae tightly tucked across their back to avoid getting greasy too. Cavill gave the man a nod, a human gesture that was no less effective among his own people. "Good work, Haggy. I figured as much, which is why I got out here early to keep you from taking the entire engine apart. I know you were thinking about it. Ah, don't try to deny it," he added quickly as Haggy's faceplates moved slightly to reply. Haggy just closed their mouth and went back to working on the engine out of sight, the low muttering curses telling Cavill that they were making progress on their tasks. Haggy was his driver, the young man having only been in active service for a few years, but already a talented driver and maintenance worker. He was never one to trust his vehicle to the hands of others and liked to perform most maintenance on the old man himself. Cavill saw no problems with this, as the young man was an excellent mechanic and had never failed to keep the assault gun in tip-top condition. Taking a deep breath through the spherical lungs that dotted his sides, he moved up to the vehicle and climbed up its side. The textured anti-thermal and magnetic armor coating provided ample hand and footholds to allow him access to the roof. The ATMAC coating was designed to prevent or at least mitigate the chances of magnetic mines being attached to the hull of his vehicle. So far he hadn't had to test the idea, and that was just fine with him. He opened the top hatch and climbed inside, his long body taking a few seconds to fully enter the interior of the vehicle. He moved into the partially covered control couch that sat near the main gun. As both the commander and gunner of the vehicle, it was his duty to convey tactical data and choose targets for the main gun of the TAG. And what a main gun the old man had. The TAG was armed with a 280mm Super Heavy rocket-assisted mortar launcher. The Stormhammer cannon was able to fire a variety of rounds, from regular high explosives and anti-fortification bunker busters to incendiary, and it even carried two 280 F8 fusion rounds. The devastating 7-kiloton tactical nuclear devices capable of destroying virtually everything in a 100-meter radius and causing heavy damage up to a kilometer from the detonation site. The power to possess such potent weapons was only given to the most trusted and dedicated TAG commanders. He knew the destruction that such devices caused, had seen the devastation and fallout they left in their wake. To fire one was to become death incarnate, the slaughterer of more than just the enemies caught in the weapon's blast, but of every living thing that existed down to the very microbes. He sighed at the thought. He had never fired one of the fusion rounds in combat, and only once live on a test range. He said a small prayer to the mother that he would never have to use such a terrible weapon. The death they caused was almost beyond mortal comprehension. The beginning of the rebellion had seen the traitorous secessionists drop nuclear weapons on the defenseless inhabitants of Sector Eta. Entire cities of hundreds of thousands evaporated in an instant by the unprecedented first strike. Weapons of such terrible potency that they had been said to crack the very crust of the planet. He wasn't sure about that one, but what he had seen was the footage of the blasts caught from the point of view of some of the smaller towns on the planet. The sight of the darkened horizon being turned into a hateful sunrise had stuck in his mind, knowing that the ominous orange glow marked the deaths of countless innocents, their blasted atoms cast into space by the force of the blasts. He found he was shuddering in anger, his lower hands creaking as he squeezed the piloting levers in his rage. He took a few more shuddering breaths. He needed to remain calm enough to punish those traitors for their crimes against the galaxy. He paused his checks as he heard the hatch above him open. He saw a dark silhouette against the blue sky above. The shadow climbed into the vehicle, their long armored body similar to his but slimmer, less heavily armored with thick chitinous plates.